When Vico Sotto assumed office in 2019, he stepped into a city hall long accustomed to the habits of dynasty politics. For nearly 30 years, the Eusebio family had built its networks and ways of doing things. Reform was never going to be easy, yet from his very first days as mayor, Vico signaled that Pasig City was entering a new chapter. His priorities were clear: transparency, social services, and modern governance. One of his earliest moves was to overhaul procurement processes, ensuring that city contracts and spending would no longer be shrouded in secrecy. He strengthened the enforcement of the Pasig Transparency Mechanism Ordinance he had authored as a councilor, this time giving it teeth at the executive level. For the first time, residents could openly see how their taxes were being used. Education and healthcare quickly became cornerstones of his administration. Vico expanded scholarship programs, improved access to public education, and provided free school supplies for thousands of students. In healthcare, he pushed for better facilities and services, ensuring that hospitals and health centers were adequately funded. His approach was not flashy, it was practical and people-centered, designed to meet real needs. He also tackled one of the most persistent problems of Metro Manila: traffic and transportation. Pasig became known for progressive mobility policies. Under his leadership, including bike lanes, pedestrian-friendly spaces, and efforts to integrate sustainable transport. These moves were not without controversy, but they reflected a mayor willing to challenge old habits in pursuit of long-term solutions. Vico also worked on housing and socialized development, particularly for informal settler families. Instead of forced demolitions, he advocated relocation with dignity, seeking long-term housing solutions in coordination with national agencies and NGOs. What set his leadership apart was not just the policies, but the culture shift. He insisted on merit-based hiring in City Hall, reducing the influence of political patronage. He opened communication lines with citizens, using both traditional consultations and digital platforms to hear grievances and suggestions. He even became known for personally responding to people online, a small gesture, but one that made government feel accessible in a new way. Of course, not everyone welcomed these reforms. Vested interests resisted changes in procurement and hiring. Old political networks sought to undermine him. But Vico pressed forward with steady conviction, careful not to wage war with personalities, but always emphasizing principles. By the end of his first year, it was clear that Pasig had begun to change. What once seemed like a city locked in tradition was now becoming a model of transparency and reform. Vico's promise of a new kind of politics was starting to take visible shape. But nothing could have prepared him, or any mayor, for what came next. Just months into his term, a global crisis would test his leadership like never before. Next time, in Episode 6, Crisis Leadership, the Pandemic Test, we'll see how Vico Sotto faced COVID-19 head-on, balancing swift response with fairness, and why his leadership during the pandemic earned him nationwide admiration.